Hello and welcome to my second league match from the B division. For the remainder of the season, we will showcase new cards from the New Dominion expansion, Rising Sun. In this game, we showcase Change. Change reads if you have any debt plus 3 coin. Otherwise, trash a card from your hand and gain a card costing more coin than it. Then you gain debt equal to the difference in coin. For example, you can change a 0 cost copper into a 8 cost province, but then you would take 8 debt after you do so. Please note that you only gain this ability from change if you have no debt. Otherwise, change will give you 3 coin instead. Let's see how change fits into the rest of the kingdom. We have plus cards from multiple sources: Hunting Party, Sea Witch, Destria, Guard Dog, and even Footpad will draw in this kingdom. We have plus actions only from Lost Arts. We have trashing from Rope, Crystal Ball, and also Change. We have gain from Change and plus buy from Rope and Collection. My first thought looking at this kingdom was to put my Lost Arts token onto the Hunting Party pile so that I can play some combination of Sea Witch, Footpad, and Change. This would all culminate in as many collections as I can manage so that I can gain points while building the deck and also near the end of the game. The attacks Sea Witch and Footpad would slow down my opponent from doing the same. So let's see how we go trying to build this deck using plus actions on the Hunting Party. The opening on 4-3 seems fairly obvious. 4 is going to be a change. My plan with the change is to get rid of the estates early, turn those estates into ropes, and then the ropes will help clean up the coppers. And hopefully I'll have a thin enough deck fast enough. There is a point to note about the trashing in this kingdom, and that it is weak. Change only trashes one card at a time, and then there are issues with the debt you incur after that. Rope trashes one card every other turn, and Crystal Ball may trash one card from the top of your deck if it's a copper or a curse or an estate. Otherwise, you may not even trash with Crystal Ball. Change is going to be the choice on 4. And the choice on 3 is going to be a silver. Silver will help me get to the 5 Hunting Party, Sea Witch, and also I need a bit of money to hit Lost Arts so that I can put my token on the Hunting Parties. My opponent agrees. They go for change and silver as well. Turn 3, I buy a second silver. I'm not too unhappy with the second silver because Lost Arts is expensive. My opponent on their turn 3, they get a Silos, which is an excellent buy. And it makes me think here for my turn 4. I have 6. I could put my Lost Arts token on the Hunting Parties as I initially wanted. That did not seem wise given that I have no Hunting Parties in the deck. Alternatively, this could be one of the 5s, Hunting Party or Sea Witch. I decided against those, opting for a Silos instead. The reason for that is because I did not want to fall too far behind my opponent. The Silos would help them cycle through many cards, often 3 or 4 on a turn, and they have a change in their deck. That means they can gain 5 costs quite easily. Change can simply turn an estate into a Hunting Party or Sea Witch. Silos would help them draw into that very quickly, and I felt, or I calculated, that I would be too far behind if I did not match my opponent's Silos at this point. I am not entirely sure if that is the right decision. I'm just presenting my thought process at the time for your scrutiny and feedback. My opponent discards 1, finds their change, and they opt for the Sea Witch as their first 5, not Hunting Party. They change an estate into the Sea Witch. Estate costs 2, Sea Witch gains 5, therefore they incur the difference in debt, 3 debt, which they pay off immediately. leaves them with only 1 coin. They don't buy anything on 1 coin. Silos finds me my silvers, which helps me to pay off my debt here. I am also going to change my estate. I have a choice now of hunting party or sea witch. I opt for the sea witch, just like my opponent. Again, my mental calculations told me that if you didn't return the volley of curses, you would fall too far behind, especially given how weak the trashing is in this kingdom. So we get our first sea witch. We draw a card there because of the footpath. Change gains an action card in the action phase. So footpath says draw a card if you do so. Draws me into another estate, which is neither here nor there, and then we pass it back to my opponent. They change another estate into a second sea witch, pay off their debt. I get to discard 5 cards here, which is excellent. It does find me my sea witch and my change. I opt for the sea witch. I am placing a relatively high priority on curses and on trying to clean up as much as possible. I get up to 7 here. This could be again Lost Arts token on Hunting Party. Instead, it is going to be a second Sea Witch. Ideally, with the combination of Sea Witch filtering at the start of turn and Silos discarding many coppers, I would be able to play a Sea Witch every single turn, at least until the curses run out. My opponent plays their first Sea Witch. Also, Footpad will draw me a card if I gain a curse, so that makes it a little bit more likely that I'll be able to play one Sea Witch every turn. So now I have 4 coppers in hand instead of the 3. Gives me a wider search space because of the silos. On 5, my opponent gets a hunting party. That makes the most sense. I would also do the same on 5 here. Sea Witch comes out. I call the Sea Witch first so that I can trigger the shuffle to get the estates out of the deck. And then I will use silos to get me all the way until the end of the deck here. I find my second Sea Witch. I land a curse in my opponent's deck. And here I have the choice of hunting party just like my opponent. However, I opted here for the Lost Arts token. And I'm going to place it on Sea Witch. This is not what I had initially envisaged for my deck. However, I did this so that I can play my change more often. Twice now, my change has been drawn together with the Sea Witch and I've been unable to play that change. I don't have any ropes yet. I don't have any other source of additional trashing. And I want to get ahead of my opponent, especially on the trashing and curses front. This is why I put my Lost Arts token on the Sea Witch. I can always move it later. And if I do well on the curse split, I will have time to move that Lost Arts token over to the hunting parties later. Let's see how it goes for now with the Lost Arts on Sea Witch. There was a bit of server issue here. We had to restart the game because the server reset in the middle of it. I apologize for the jumping display, but that is the reason why. My opponent, just to catch you up, bought a collection on their turn and then they passed it back to me. I filter with Sea Witch, I filter with Silos. I find my second Sea Witch, I find my change. This is what I wanted. I change my estate into a rope. Again, that is exactly what I wanted. And I have 5 here. I could buy a hunting party. Instead, I opt for a collection, just like my opponent. This is a dubious decision. Hunting party helps me find my Sea Witches and my change. Collection doesn't help me do that. Collection helps me score. We pass it back to my opponent. They draw with their Sea Witch. Again, they discard with Silos. This is going to help keep both me and my opponent fairly consistent for the rest of the game here. Not a great turn for them, but they get their Sea Witch out and they get up to 5. This is going to be a second hunting party for them. Over to me. Sea Witch first to potentially find more coppers. I don't find more coppers. Well, I find 1, but I discard it with the Sea Witch. So I am left with 4. I discard those 4 and look at what happens here. Had that collection been a hunting party, it is very likely that I would have found my sea witch. I would have played my sea witch and played my change. As is the case now, I don't have a sea witch in play. I don't land a curse in my opponent's deck. I don't get the filter in at the start of next turn. And what is a couple points doing for me here of the collection at best? It was far more important to get the hunting party there. So in retrospect, the first collection should have been a hunting party. That was a mistake. We make the best of what we have. I change a silver here into a rope. I would only incur 1 debt. If I do so, I draw a card, which is an estate, get up to 5, and I buy a hunting party, having learned my lesson with this collection. Pass it back to my opponent. Hunting party for them. And sea witch for them. Sorry for the skip again here. Server issues. My opponent, they bought Lost Arts and they put their token on the hunting parties, which is the place where your token wants to be. Alright, so here, because I didn't play my sea witch last turn, I have 2 of them now. I don't want to have 2 in play on one turn and none in play on the next turn. The extra filtering from the sea witch helps immensely with consistency. That combined with silos helps keep the deck running even though there are a heap of coppers and curses in it. However, I need to balance off the curse split, so I have to play both of these sea witches here. I change a curse. My initial plan was to change the curse into copper. That'll combine well with the silos, I thought. Change specifically says you have to gain something more expensive. So I can gain a powerhouse here. Instead, I opt for an estate. I would take 2 debt, but I can pay off the debt and then still buy a 5 cost. That's why I took the estate. Later, the estate is a better change target. Also, the point might be relevant in the late game. I'm not sure. 6 here. I could move my Lost Arts token over to the hunting parties. Instead, I say nope. With both my sea witches out of the deck, I want an actual copy of hunting party in my deck to help me find my change once again here. My opponent starts off the turn again here with the sea witch and the silos. They will find their hunting party, I believe, on this turn. Silos discards, hunting party draws. There's a sea witch. And the curses ended up splitting 5 to 5. So despite my efforts, I was not able to gain any advantage from the curses, the curse split. However, I do have a couple of ropes and I've been trashing with those ropes. So I am a little bit thinner than my opponent. As compensation, of course, they have these super hunting parties that give them plus actions, which is where you want your hunting part, the Lost Arts token to be. Change comes out for them. They change an estate into a rope. They'll draw a card off the footpad, triggering maybe a bad shuffle. It is probably not that bad with silos. We'll see. They get up to 6 here after they pay off their debt. And it is going to be hunting parties for them for a little while. Probably until the pile runs out here. And the one-off collection gives them a point while they do so. I will mention the collection for my opponent made more sense than it did for me. I already had 2 silvers in my deck. My opponent only had 1. So in addition to giving them the extra money they needed for the Lost Arts, the collection also gives them the plus buy. I didn't need the extra money. I needed the hunting party to stay consistent. Here, I choose not to play my change. If I play the change, I trigger a shuffle because I gain in the action phase thanks to footpad. That shuffle looks awful from the log. Hunting party skipped over a heap of coppers, which is fine because of silos, but the curses and the estate, that's not fine. So again, I'm left with a change stranded in my hand here. Again, the option is possible for me to move my Lost Arts over to the hunting party. I choose another hunting party at this point. My deck is huge, is not very consistent still. I feel like I need more hunting parties to establish the consistency. Hunting party see which change from my opponent. I'm paying attention to their change plays. They change a curse into an estate, gets them again up to 5. It's just going to be hunting parties for them for a while here, especially since their deck is not as thin as mine. I opt to not play the second Sea Witch here. I want to have one in play every turn, just to have a more consistent deck. Again, I'm not sure if that's right. And in the bottom 6 cards is another hunting party, and critically, my change. That is my source of advantage right now, that I'm a little bit thinner. I should try to maintain that. So I'm not sure if I should have gone looking for the change there. It wasn't guaranteed. Instead, I opted for the consistency over the thinning. Get to 6 again. Again, very tantalizing decision of whether or not to put the Lost Arts token onto the hunting parties. I still opt to gain the hunting parties. At this point, a consideration is that I'm also taking away hunting parties from my opponent, so that they don't have as many plus actions, or their deck is not as consistent because they have less hunting parties. They find one of their hunting parties and they will remain consistent from here on out. I think they've gone through the worst of it. The curses have stopped coming in and they have a heap of hunting parties. Now they change into another collection. I was a bit surprised to see that. Get up to 5. This is going to be yet another hunting party. I thought they would have changed into either collection or footpad if they were going to change. I was extremely worried about footpad for the middle part of this game. Footpad is a very annoying attack here, especially given that we are both relying on silos to discard coppers to help find us our important pieces. Find my change. I'm finally able to play my change. I'm okay to trigger this shuffle. It's just 4 coppers and an estate on top there. Silos will wipe that off very easily. I change into a second collection by the last hunting party, and here, this is an endgame consideration. I opt to go for the poorhouses here. My calculation was that I have 5 buys. I can pile out the poorhouses over 2 turns, and I think that I would have enough points to do so. I don't think my opponent can catch up. I don't think they're drawing very well with their deck. So I will try to pile out with the poorhouses. Additionally, my opponent's deck will become better than mine if I give them enough time to do so. They have the hunting parties giving them plus actions. I expect them to change into a footpad at some point, change into another collection, draw the collection on the same turn. They can do much more exciting things than I can. So I want this game to be done as soon as possible. And I felt like targeting the poorhouses was the way to go here. So 2 of them gives me 4 points from both my collections. Let's see how my opponent goes. Let's see how they can respond to this. Obviously, I've made my intentions clear. I'm not sure how my opponent will respond to this. So they have quite a good turn here. They see a heap of hunting parties, but look at how much crap is in the deck. There's a lot of junk in the deck. So many coppers and curses. They change into another collection. And they try to draw up that collection. Unfortunately, they don't find it. I say unfortunately. I feel like it is more likely they don't find it than they do. And here, they opt to make a play that gives them more draw in the deck and also guarantees that I don't pile out on my next turn. So they calculate well that I only have 5 gains, 4 buys, and a gain from change. So as long as they leave 6 poorhouses or more in the pile, I cannot pile out on them. So they buy a couple for the points. They buy a Destria that gives them more draw. They buy a Guard Dog that gives them more draw. Still, even with the extra draw, I don't think the deck can draw very well. So I am going to go ahead and persist with the poorhouse plan. At this point, I could pull out and maybe change into another collection, try to draw those, get Destriers for cheap, get provinces. Instead, I calculate my opponent cannot catch up on points with me, especially after I'm seeing both my collections here. I have all my buys, I have my gain. I'm getting rid of a curse as well. That'll turn into a poorhouse. So I go for the attempted pile out here. Curse. This could be a third collection. it's like a 20% chance to find it off the top there, even less, I think 1 in 6. So I decided to take the safer route, which is to just get the poorhouse, and I leave only one poorhouse for my opponent. That is very little for them. They'll only have one cheap buy of the collection. If they want to get more collection points, they'll have to buy more expensive things like guard dogs or changes. However, I greatly underestimate my opponent's deck, it seems. They draw one off the rope, they draw a couple off the sea witch, and their first hunting party reveals quite a depressing story. There are 2 collections in hand already. I thought, alright, maybe they can't do it with 2 collections. If they find the 3rd one, I'm probably dead in the water. Can they find the 3rd one? The hunting party skips over collection, so they'll have to find it some other way. And as it turns out, 3 collections are already in hand. That's a heap of money. I'm only 9 points ahead, and I resign here because I think the win is already in hand for my opponent. They're just going through the motions here. However, I hope you understand more how change works and you learned a little bit about where to put your Lost Arts token and some endgame strategy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.